Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 556. I am so excited to have Chris Burres back on the show. His website is myvitalc.com. And if you go to myvitalc.com/LTH, he gives our listeners an amazing discount. Thank you so much, by the way. The listeners who tried it and got back to me have had life-changing experiences. I personally have had a really cool experience with your the purest C60 out there, and I'm excited to share it with you and the listeners. I'm really looking forward to this interview. So we had you on the show first back in episode 551. That wasn't too long ago, but long enough, about 2 months or something. It gave us enough time to have a really good experience using your C60, my husband and I, and being able to judge it for ourselves. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. How have you been? How's the summer? How did it treat you?
It's been absolutely amazing. We're kind of gearing up as we're heading through the end of the year. We're going to a bunch of conferences. Some will have booths at, others I'll just be attending. One, I feel really privileged that I can share. I'm attending as a VIP. So I was invited as a VIP. That feels amazing.
That's cool.
But yeah, so gearing up for that, I love these events. They're exhausting, but I love these events because I get face-to-face time. I get to share the story again and kind of on an individualized basis. There's just, the serendipity of life and who you know. I'll just share this because it's amazing. I'm having this conversation. I might remember her name here in a second, but with a doctor, something or other, and it's like a 40-minute conversation. And at some point, I mention a doctor that I'm using here, so not my traditional practitioner, but somebody kind of a biohacking doctor that I'm working with, Dr. Brzezinski, and she goes, "Oh, I went to medical school with him." Right? Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I love those types of things and these types of events. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm also excited to hear the testimonials that you've kind of alluded to. And, I do love my running joke, as cheesy as it may be. I love to come back and visit with you and find out what it was like to live twice as long.
That's good. I like it. I'm really excited. I didn't know that you worked with Dr. Brzezinski, so I'm going to definitely be talking about that in this interview. But yeah, let me read you the testimonial. So one of my listeners, her name's Kim, and she says, I'm on day 4, meaning on day 4 of the myvitalc.com/LTH to get your C60. I'm not very smooth at sounding like an infomercial. This is not an infomercial. But this stuff's so cool. I want everyone to try it. So she's like, I'm on day 4 and my family is on day 2. So I guess she was the guinea pig for 2 days. Like her family was looking at her like, if you drop dead, we know it's not safe to take that. So 2 days into her taking it, she's like, okay, guys, it's safe now. We are already blown away. I think I told you about our mold toxicity. My husband told me today that he feels like he's 15 years younger. So remember, he's on day 2 of taking this, just like little 5 milliliter tiny bit. It's like a thimbleful, right? Of this very high quality olive oil mixed with as high a saturation as you can get of the C60, mixed in with the olive oil. So he's on day 2. He feels like he's 15 years younger. He has so much energy. I really feel like this is a life changer for us. And I want to thank you so much for spreading awareness about it. And then we have a little conversation about how exciting that is. And I'm just scrolling down because I don't want to share her personal information. But she says, seriously, my husband called me just to tell me I feel like I'm crying. I watched a few more interviews with Chris, but you had the best questions. So I'm like, yes, thank you.
It feels good. I feel like you're a VIP interviewer.
VIP interviewer right here. And then she said, I really appreciate how he explained the mechanism of action. It totally makes sense in our case with our toxin load. And then she goes, I'm going to buy a few more bottles because we're running out. We're a family of 7. And so she says she's very excited to see how it helps her other health issues. And yeah, so she's been on it. And another listener who messaged me, I also started taking the C60 and I have a few noticeable changes. This is what is really cool. My gut is transformed. So she had been taking it for not too long, a few weeks. She goes, my gut is transformed. I got some kind of weird viral thing 2 years ago and it has been upset ever since. So taking the C60 for whatever reason, because it gives you a leg up, like metabolically, like on a cellular level, it gives you a leg up in terms of like the stress load that's happening in intracellularly. And she couldn't get over that for 2 years because of some viral thing hurt. She had upset stomach, upset intestines for 2 years. She took C60 and now it's gone. It's healed. It stopped being upset. And then she goes, and my sleep is insane. So well rested. That show was really neat to listen to. So that was episode 551. She says it's really neat to listen to. So if you haven't, you should go listen to it. Because a stranger told you so. And sent to all my friends and my brother as well. So yeah, and she goes, I feel calmer as a rule too. I'm always edgy. She goes, so she's always edgy, but she feels calmer. And she talks about how she has a lot of anxiety in the past, but now she feels grounded. And she's wondering how much that was her overall inflammation. And she says, the inflammation being somewhere in her system, and that C60 is helping with it. And she goes, anyway, it's a pretty sweet biohack. I'm like,
Conclusion.
yeah. Conclusion. Sweet biohack. Like, it's life-changing. She's sleeping better. Her anxiety is gone. Her intestinal problem she's had for acute intestinal problem for 2 years is gone. Pretty sweet biohack. So anyway, congratulations, Chris. You're changing people's lives in ways that they didn't expect it. How does that feel?
Wow, it feels absolutely amazing. And, thank you for, taking the time, having me on the podcast. Go check out that podcast, 551, and then, kind of having me back on to share these testimonials. By the way, I think when we scheduled this, I'll be honest, I kind of knew that we would get great results, even just with you and your husband.
Right.
But that your audience has kind of given it a try and given you feedback. And before we started, we were talking about how hard it is to get positive feedback, right? Like,
right. We're like, people have people have great results, but not everyone takes the time to write you. And so then I get this all the time. I'll have people be like, oh yeah, that thing you shared with me 2 years ago was life-changing. I'm like, why did you tell me then it was life-changing? I don't know, life got busy. I thought about writing it, but then I didn't. And the fact that people are reaching out to me and saying this is awesome just means like that there's so many more people who it helped and they didn't take the time to write. So it's neat. It's neat when people do that. But I have a personal story of how much this has helped. So just to reiterate for those who didn't listen to 551, it's okay. You can listen to this one first. It's fine.
We won't make you go back and listen to 551.
Yeah, we're gonna hold you down. No,
let's stop the podcast. Actually, let's publish
right
this
now. Go back. No, you can keep listening. I give you permission. It's okay. So I've tried C60 from other companies because I didn't know that there was only one I should be buying it from, and it was like the original creator of it, and then everything else was sort of this like basement lab, ripoff weird thing. So I didn't really get results from other ones. There was one brand I sort of felt like a little bit different, but a lot of the times when I purchased it in the past, I was like, this is just interesting olive oil, basically. And I didn't really see any different, but I was like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to feel different. I don't know. So I get yours. And the first day I took it, I felt euphoric, which was interesting. And I'm like, I don't expect to feel euphoric every time I take it, but it was just this very interesting, like the rest of the day, almost elated, This is going to get a little X-rated, but you know how good you feel post-orgasm, like that, like the endorphins, maybe I should say post-exercise, right? But that endorphins that just like, but like
Is
it's
that really?
different.
Yeah, you know,
It's,
exercise is the thing. It feels good when you stop.
yeah. Oh, I feel so good now. Yeah, that like elated, like just the endorphins. It felt something really, really good, and something felt right in my body. If that's the best way I could put it. I feel like sleep was deeper, but like I already have really good sleep. Like I'm really protective of my sleep, but I'm like, yeah, that felt like deeper, right? And that's always fun. But here's the big one. And I definitely had more energy again, but I'm really healthy. Like I'm really like I'm in tune with my body so well. So when I felt an uptick in energy, I'm like, that's cool. Like, and when I felt all the things you said would happen, happened. Okay. So that's not the impressive part. Like when you said you're going to have more energy, you're going to have better sleep. Like I was like, yeah, of course. Of course I have that. So here's the thing. My husband 2.5 years ago, had a root. So he had, all of the mercury in his mouth taken out like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he was doing hospice care for his dad. So he's living in his dad's room doing 24-hour hospice care for 5, 6 months. He had moved out from living with me from his, and living with his dad. So I was like single momming it with our son while my husband was doing 24-hour hospice care without a break. And it was pretty rough time, right?
Yeah.
But emotionally, like doing really well, considering like it was very healing for the two of them. They had a completion in their relationship.
That's
so
awesome.
when his dad died, it wasn't like the super sad event. It was like your sufferings ended. Like his dad said I love you for the first. My husband was in his 50s. Like this is the first time on his deathbed. My husband's dad said I love you for the first time. Like
That's a dream.
He was like one of those tough guys that like drank, like he used to do professional cycling and he would drink coffee instead of water because water is for weak people. Like this is the man. Like he wouldn't say I love you ever, but he would show it. Like he'd show up to help you move. Like he flew across country to like help us move, and like he drove one of our vehicles home, and like he showed up and like carried furniture. Like he would just show up, right? Like it wasn't that he didn't show love. Like he showed love in his way, but it was like very difficult for him to say it. So anyways, on his deathbed, he said, I'm so sorry I didn't hold you more. Like I'm so sorry I wasn't, you know what I mean? So it was very cathartic. Like the two of them bonded. It was really cool. Anyway, so he passes away. While this is happening, my husband's filling that he had from like the mercury being taken out, the filling falls out. He doesn't think anything of it. He's like, because he's so in the middle of like taking care of his dad. He thinks, okay, I'll get this handled one day, right? Well, that's not what you're supposed to do. And this becomes a giant cavity and it hurts. And so I'm like, okay, well, we need to get this handled. So he's scheduled for, and I didn't know at the time how bad root canals are, but he was scheduled for a root canal with the top root canal guy. Like his website's rootcanal.com. Like he's the top root canal guy.
Oh, wow.
You can go to. And hours after my husband's father passes, my husband is in a chair for like 7 hours. It was the worst experience of his life. It was like, more painful than his dad dying, right? Like he had to be in a chair. He hadn't slept in, 24 or 48 hours. And he had his neck in this weird position and they were drilling. Anyways, turns out they should have told him it needs to be an extraction, but they were tryhards. And they just went over the top and, they wanted their $8,000 or whatever it was, but it was botched. So they ended up having to extract it anyway. So all of this, there could be some kind of like dental reason, but soon after he develops chronic, debilitating, reoccurring pain in his neck. And we have seen every kind of specialist, of course, holistic, right? Like, so it's presented as the worst trigger point I've ever seen. So trigger point is like where a band of muscle becomes very taut, like a spasm, and that chokes and the nerve that's innervating it, which then radiates pain to a different area. So upper trigger point, upper trapezius trigger point is like goes up the neck and around the ear like a question mark. Very classic, right? So I'm massaging it, and it's hard and it's cold. And I'm like, clearly, this is a trigger point. So we start taking him to like dry needling. The acupuncturist puts it in the needle. It bends the needle 90 degrees. He cannot get a needle in.
Oh, wow.
We're like, ooh. So he goes to Rolfing, massage, 3 or 4 different kinds of upper cervical chiropractors. You name it. We just go on and on. We go to all kinds of different practitioners and, specialists and stuff like that. And I figure out that it's not, this is obviously not a stereotypical, like it's not a typical trigger point because it keeps coming back daily. It lasts for about 8 hours, sometimes 6, but it's like 6 to 8 hours. But during it, he's having migraine symptoms, so auras, right? And right before it, he'll have auras. Then during it, he's unable to function, like his brain can't concentrate, like he can barely drive. And then afterwards, he's left completely exhausted. And so I'm like, this doesn't act like a trigger point. And it was daily. And then we would do all this work on it, massage and everything. And so we could get it to be every other day. And sometimes if we got all these practitioners and he got all this body work, it would get to be like once a week or twice a week. But he never really had a break. Oh, and by the way, because he did go try actual drugs, there's not one drug, not one level of prescription that will turn the pain off. There's not, it won't even touch it. So he just stopped. He's like, I'm not going to take any meds because it's not even touching it. Nothing would prevent it. And we couldn't really, and like what we would try, like, let's say we did all these types of therapies, which the bills add up when you're going all these different types of therapies for it. If we could have 6 or 7 days without it, and then it would come back, right? We would repeat the same thing we did last week, and then he'd get it every day. So there was nothing we couldn't figure a trigger. He would fast. He'd do like 16 days of fasting. He'd still have them. Like we were like, okay, is it a food? Is it how you move? Is it, and nothing would make it go away 100% all the time. Now we have the Vibe, which is the frequency specific microcurrent PEMF, and that sometimes could lessen the pain or turn it off, but not all the time, right? Like everything we used naturally, like we have phototherapy patches, they're awesome. They would help, but again, wouldn't like we stop. I'm looking to like get to the root cause and stop it. Okay, so this is 2.5 years of constant pain, and I'm saying this is not normal. This is not like a normal muscle tension. Like this is acting like it's a migraine, but it starts in his neck, and it's like a migraine and in a trigger point, and maybe the migraine is creating the trigger point, like, but it has migraine qualities. So anyways, the latest doctor we're seeing, we're having good results with now it's like 3 times, like this is again, right before the C60. So she's got him to be like 3 or 4 times a week instead of like 6 or 7 and in less pain and shorter. So we're like, okay, we're getting somewhere. And she's doing all kinds of like red laser therapy and, a bunch of, maneuvers on him. And we're thinking, there's got to be something more neurological, but what's going on? Still can't get to the root cause. Okay. So in walks your C60. And when you had said that your wife's migraines went down by like something like the occurrences of her migraines went down, something like 90%, right? Like they went from regular
about
to
13. Like, yeah, about 13 per month down to like 1 or 2 potentially every other month.
Yeah, so that's okay. That's maybe I didn't do the math, but I was like, that sounds like a lot less, right? So I said,
no, you're right.
Is it 90%? Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're actually teaching like percentages and fractions in our homeschooling. I'm pretty sure my son could have done, my 10-year-old could have done the math there. So anyway, he starts taking it. Now, remember, we have had regular, like every 3 days, but it's not. You can't set a clock to it. Sometimes it's every day, sometimes it's every 3 days, sometimes it's once a week. But most of the time, it was like every other day, right? So he takes the C60, and he has a few days without it. We're like, okay, that's cool. He gets one, and he can feel it, like an aura's kicking in, like he can feel it coming on. He can feel the tension, and he knows by now because he's had it thousands of times. Like he knows that
it's coming. Yeah.
It's gonna, like, this is the crescendo, right? Like it comes up and then it holds on, and then like hours later, then it lets go, but then he's still exhausted. So he starts feeling it coming on, and it doesn't just like start to feel come on and go away. Like it never stops, right? Like it just keeps going. He takes a shot, like, by shot I mean like a thimbleful, right, of the C60, of your C60. And within 30 minutes, it's 100% gone. And he's looking at me like, well, that was interesting. Interesting. So then I'm like, well, you should, because then he goes, I'm going to take it every time I feel one. I'm like, no, you should be taking it every day. He's like, we're going to run out. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, you have mine. Here, I had some good results. You have mine. You need to, like, this is an experiment, right? So he takes it every day. He has no migraines. He has no neck thing. And then he stops taking it because, the experiment, right?
Yeah.
And then every time, like, he stops taking it consistently, right? Every time he gets the thing and it starts to happen, he takes the shot of it. But there are times when we're out, right? Because the start of it is not predictable anymore. It used to always happen like at 11 a.m. or always happen at 2 p.m. or something. But now it can happen in the middle of the night. It can happen in the afternoon. So we're out. So now it's in full blown. He comes home, takes it, makes it go away. And he's like, what? This is crazy. So most of the time he takes it every day. And if one comes on, it's less. Like the pain is less. Like he goes, I'm having an aura, but it doesn't feel tight in my neck yet. Like it doesn't, like it just, like the aura came and then went. But the rest of it didn't happen. Like he's like, whatever this is, it's stopping the somewhere along the signal of what causes this to happen for the chronic pain, the whole crescendo of the migraine and the neck pain. It's stopping it. And I don't know. Is it getting to the root? Is it like stopping it halfway along the way? Like, I don't know. Whatever it is noticeable, extremely noticeable. And then the times, the very few times he's had like a full blown one, he'll take the C60 and then he'll use his other tools. Like the Vibe has a program for carpal tunnel, which he figured out, because carpal tunnel is like, well, it's nerve entrapment. And so that's sort of what's going on. And he puts that on his neck, and then between those two things, it goes away. And he's like, nothing used to make this go away. So I'm really excited for people in chronic pain and chronic inflammatory conditions to just see if this could like give them a leg up or block the root cause. Now, I'd love to get to the point where we're figuring out what has shifted in his body and what we can do to like completely remove it and help his body heal from it. So we're still digging, we're still working on it. But this has single-handedly, out of the hundreds of things we've tried, been the most effective thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to give a little perspective, right? If I am a geeky scientist, but if I were the geeky scientist who like went into the lab, I also go into the lab a lot, but if I were the geeky scientist who went into the lab to create, a migraine solving supplement, I'd be super proud of this, right? And I am super proud of it. The position that I'm in is just very weird because I didn't go invent this to solve any sort of health concerns. And by the way, I'll do an FDA disclaimer here because we're going pretty deep into the FDA's territory. But it's a very unique position, right? Because the way I describe it is people typically get into the supplement industry for one of two reasons. The first reason is they decide to make a lot of money and they decide they're going to do it with supplements. And I have no problem with people making a lot of money. That's just not how I ended up here. The next is they're, have a health challenge, the health challenge of themselves or a loved one, and they solve it, and now they want to save the world. And hopefully it doesn't surprise you that I'm not against people saving the world. It's just not how I ended up in this spot. I've been manufacturing this wacky molecule. We call it ESS60, by the way. ESS60 is what we call C60 that's been processed for people and pets. I've been manufacturing that molecule since 1991. They thought it would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study, and instead of being toxic, the test subjects lived 90% longer than the control group. And now I'm trying to be a good steward. So the perspective is like, I just can't be more happy, right? And I'm, I'm not as disappointed as that geeky scientist if he had produced it, right? And we get back on our show here and you're showing, yeah, we didn't notice too much or we noticed a little, but wow. I mean, this, it lightens my heart. Like this is absolutely amazing. And you, in your story, I actually landed in a place I hadn't thought about yet. So my wife used to suffer from TMJ, right? That's lockjaw. Right. This is a tension. And one day after she started taking the product, she was like, hey, my TMJ is gone. And right, like you think of TMJ kind of like a structural problem, right? And you're like, well, I don't know how this is going to work structurally, but it's not. It's a muscle tension issue typically. And so, I had never kind of equated her TMJ was probably associated with her migraines. Her TMJ went away, so her migraines went away. Your husband's neck pain, right, kind of associated, and they've gone away. And the way that you just described your husband's migraines, where the aura, I don't know if we talked about this in the last podcast, where I think we did, but where, I would get 4 to 5 migraines per year. I've got a spreadsheet back to 2014. And when I first started taking this product on a regular basis, I went 18 months without a single migraine, right? I should have had somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7, didn't have a single one. The next one that I had was because I went off the product because I was following the protocol of our sleep study that we did. And that's when I got my first migraine in like 18 months. And now I'll probably get 2 per year, but they look exactly like what you described, right? The aura comes in, right? And so that aura is just like a small sliver of your vision that looks kind of kaleidoscopy, right? And I'm sure that's different for each individual person experiencing a migraine, but it starts for me in my peripheral, it ends up in my center of vision, then it goes away. That probably takes 15 minutes. And then, that was a component. That was when I knew I was going to get a migraine in the past. Now that comes and goes. I can work through it, right? It's hard to read when the kaleidoscope is in the center of vision. It's hard to read words through a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
But I could still do a podcast or I could still have a meeting, and then it goes away. And, previously it would be 2 or 3 days that if I just tapped on my skull, it would hurt, right? Because the skull ached, right? Yeah, I would say my brain hurt. And that doesn't happen anymore. So, but let's throw out the FDA disclaimer. So the FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. We have not done the research. These are very anecdotal. We have not done the research to say that our product addresses migraines or even you mentioned pain or any of this. I think it's best from the audience perspective, and we need to be safe here. Just assume none of this will happen for you. Dig into the research, and we'll certainly have a link if you're interested in trying it afterwards. I wanted to touch on another thing, right? You were talking about one of the testimonials where they're, calmer and this stomach condition. Remember, a lot of the kind of important brain, natural drugs that our body uses actually come from our stomach as it relates to the brain. So endorphins and all of these things, not all of them, but a lot of them actually come from our gut lining. And so to have this calmer gut and then, or kind of repaired gut in some sense, and then feel calmer, it really goes hand in hand. You've addressed that. And some of that might be, it is a high quality extra virgin olive oil that we use. I don't know if you've got to compare and contrast with some of the previous products that you used. Did they leave the peppery flavor at the back of your throat when you took them like ours does?
One of them did. But that's why I was like, oh, that was good olive oil. but was it really C60? I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
those other products, right? Like, because I did not really get profound results from any of them, but we tried them because we had heard the really cool stories about it. And so we wanted to see if, we wanted to try it. But yeah, there was one other brand. I'm pretty sure we like bought it on Amazon or something. We're like, well, or eBay, or we were like, well, let's just see. And we only bought one bottle, and it was a bit peppery, not as peppery as yours, I gotta say. Yours definitely is very high quality. I tried to get a family member to take it consistently, and they're like, no, thank you. I don't like the flavor. I'm like, but that's the flavor of medicine. Like, that means it's good for you.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's one of those things. If they were to take it, for some period of time, and maybe even shifting to every other day, eventually, I believe their body would realize that this is good for them, and then it would
like
therefore taste good, right?
Yes, this is why I like the flavor of kale. Like, people are like, ew, kale's gross. I'm like, yeah, but my body now is programmed to like it. I like the flavor. I like the flavor. I know it's cool. My son loves the flavor of like lemon and very, very strong. Like, yesterday for lunch, I just chopped up a bunch of greens and squirted fresh lemon on it, handed it to him, and he's like, mmm. And how many kids would be like, oh, this is bitter, this is sour, and my son's like, can I just suck on a lemon? Like, he's, if you give kids something healthy at a young enough age, they like love the flavor of it. And anyway, same with high quality medicinal olive oil.
I think your son and my son would probably get along. My son absolutely loves citrus, and when you get it in a drink, he's like, "Can I have your lime or can I have your lemon?"
Yeah.
And he'll just eat it. Like, he loves it.
Yeah, he will. The waitress will be like, "Do you guys need anything else?" And he'll just look up to her and, "Can I have more lime wedges, please?"
My meal is not complete yet.
Bring me all the lime wedges you have.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. And, to be, you're in this space, to be involved in any way in somebody kind of with the report that you just gave of your husband. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. That's amazing.
Well, so, I mean, we've been speaking very lightly and jovially, but it has transformed our lives. We were under this dark cloud of, are we going to have a pain day or not? Like, he's been at 50% functionality for over, it's been about 2.5 years.
Wow.
This has given him his quality of life back. This has given me my husband back. Like, this has given our son, his father back. Like, this is huge. And so we're very grateful and very excited. Again, we still don't know the root cause of his issue. And it's not like this is like solved it at the root cause, but it's like, it's been the single most effective thing we've tried so far. And it's given him his quality of life back. And like, he has something he can go to turn them off. Whereas he didn't know if what we have would turn it off or not, or sometimes it would reduce it, like with all the other things we use. But this has been consistently able to turn it off and keep it away. So it's very exciting.
I do have one more thought in this space, right? Because you mentioned the testimonial of like a stomach problem, right? Viral related stomach problem. There is, even back in the 90s when this molecule was originally discovered, it was understood that it could block the AIDS virus, right? So that in the 90s, the AIDS epidemic
Hold
was
up.
certainly, yeah.
What? We did not discuss that last time. Okay.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. The molecule's very small, right? It's only 60 carbon atoms. I think it's about 10 angstrom, under 10 angstroms across. And that turns out to be one position on the AIDS virus that the buckyball fits right into, right? This ESS60 molecule fits right into it, and that blocks the replication of the AIDS virus. There is, in fact, a patent related, I don't think it ever got pushed through, but related to using the ESS60 molecule as to prevent AIDS. And so that immediately throws it into some sort of potential antiviral, right? So again, we have to be really careful here We're not making any claims. We're talking about some of the research that's out there. If you just do a simple search, there is, a number of studies showing in different animal models that this molecule will interrupt viruses, right, and cause them to not replicate. So if we're addressing that viral component in the stomach, right, then the stomach is healed, and then that gets back to the calmer and kind of you mentioned euphoria, and that could be something else. In the case of your husband, maybe some of this neck pain is one of these Epstein-Barr virus or something that's internal, because actually the Epstein-Barr virus is herpes, right? It's the herpes virus, or one version of the herpes virus. I can share, one of the guys in our office used to get cold sores, and I remember him walking around the office with a napkin holding onto his kind of burst cold sores on his lip. And when he started taking this regularly, he, like, his kind of symptom profile is the same thing that you just described, which is apparently when cold sores are coming on, you can feel a tingling, right? So that they're coming. And he's like, I'll still feel the tingling, but they never surface and then therefore never burst. So there's probably, some sort, there may be, we need to do more research on what impact it's having on different viruses and maybe the incredibly important Epstein-Barr virus.
Yes. Super interesting. Oh my goodness. A friend of mine had chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and this was 7-ish years ago. And so she started doing all the things that I explored on my show, like sauna, eating super clean. She went whole food, plant-based, so zero processed food, made everything from scratch, and ate lots of fruits and vegetables and made smoothies and juices. And everything helped a little. And then she got into Anthony Williams, and it's a bit of a controversial subject, but Anthony Williams, he's coined medical medium, and God has given him information about health, and it's like I know it's controversial, like for many people, but what's really interesting is things that he has said, science has later proven to be true. And he has said for many years, Epstein-Barr virus has like different, if you go back and just look in his books about Epstein-Barr virus, super interesting, his perspective on it, or, whatever divine information has been given to him. I just, I take everything with a grain of salt, but I say I'm so open-minded, my brain could fall out, right? But I'm also an open-minded skeptic. So I'm going to question everything, right? And so I'm just looking at it like interesting information. But my friend, and I avoided it for years because I'm like, medium, like, come on, really? But at the same time, my friend was like, she was getting healthier and healthier and healthier. And he says, eat whole food, plant-based, drink these herbs. Like it's all really like good information that probably a holistic practitioner would have said anyway. He's like, drink celery juice, and none of this is going to hurt her. And she recovered. And she was like, gone from like bedridden, completely exhausted, which people don't know, but like having adrenal burnout, having adrenal exhaustion is a symptom of chronic Epstein-Barr virus. So she did all the things, and her heart palpitations went away, and she now was walking faster than her kids, and just like her life transformed through working on a holistic program to get Epstein-Barr virus to be dormant in her body. So everything that she was doing was like, I'm going to help my immune system get it dormant. Just that concept that we can support the body to get so healthy, it doesn't give a good terrain for the infection to thrive, right? So because that the herpes waits, like chickenpox waits for us to have the poor terrain. So stressed out, toxic load, bad pH, like lack of key nutrients, just like, living off of coffee and alcohol and sugar, right? Like just waits for us to get into a stressed out enough state that the immune system isn't adequate enough to keep it at bay. And then it's opportunistic. So that it comes up, right? But it can keep flaring up. So Epstein-Barr can keep flaring up in the body. But that's why I love the terrain theory versus germ theory. It's like, I like to kind of be right in the middle and go, let's say germs exist, but let's say the terrain is the most important thing, right? Because if your body is super healthy, that's the train, then those germs can't really thrive. And so that's what we see. People can shift their health so much that these viruses go dormant. But for those who want faster results, like taking the ESS 60, while they're making lifestyle changes, they could have day one, they could start having results. Like literally day one, turned off my husband's headache. Day one, within 30 minutes. Like it was gone within 30 minutes. So he feels it kicking in really fast, which is really interesting because it takes a while for the body to, digest fat and absorb it and stuff. But he feels it faster than you'd think he should. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people, when they, do they start absorbing it in the mouth? Like, why do they feel it faster than you'd think it would take for the body to digest it? Because we really absorb fats in the small intestines.
Yeah, they're on the other side of the stomach, right?
Right. So you're thinking like in an hour.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling it within minutes? Right. What's going on with that? Is it on a frequency level? Like what's going on? From science, what do you think?
Yeah, my perspective is, again, it goes to how small this molecule is, right? So just to give a perspective, this is a mind-blowing number. Every drop of our olive oil product has more than 400 times as many of the ESS60 molecules as you have cells in your body.
Wow.
That's how small this molecule is. One drop has 400 times as many of the molecules as you have cells in your body. It's so small that I think you hit it. Are we getting some absorption in our mouth? I think so. Right? I think this is such a small molecule that it can go, we know that it gets into the mitochondria from peer-reviewed published research, right? So the mitochondria, powerhouse of every cell, that means it's gotten past the lipid layer of the cell, it's gotten past the lipid layer of the mitochondria, and it's actually in there in the mitochondria. So I think that this can get absorbed, and that could explain why you've got, really fast results.
Very cool. So we talked about your flagship product, which is the olive oil, which I personally, my favorite, right? The olive oil ESS 60 is at the highest saturation, right?
Yes. So
there's that. But you created other stuff, right? So you have a face cream, which I was like, really? A face cream? So, but I got to tell you, okay. My grandmother had rosacea, and I guess I inherited it from her. My cheeks are always a pretty rosy color, but if you look closer, I have these broken blood vessels. I'm 45, okay? I'm not a vain person, but I'm 45 and I want to look 35, all right? And normally I do. I look great. I look great because I'm super healthy, because I believe healthy skin comes from the inside, comes from what you eat and how you live. But I have these broken blood vessels on my cheeks. If you look close enough, you just see like these red spider veins, and they're all broken, and it's not pleasant. It's not like a good look, But again, I'm not vain, and I don't wear makeup a ton, and but I was curious about how this would affect my skin. So I started using the cream, not every day even, because I just don't have like a beauty routine. I'm just more like a splash water on my face and kind of go kind of person. But I've been using it, I'd say once every 2 days, like either morning or night. I'll just rub it all over my face and go. And my spider veins are gone, and the broken blood vessels are gone, and my rosacea is about half, like 50% less. So not bad. My skin, I feel like I have healthy skin to begin with, and also it's very moisturizing, and I really like it, and it feels very luxurious. But my skin is healthier on a visual level since using it. So how does that work?
So is that the 2-part? Because we've got the 2-part.
It's the purple. It's the purple cream.
Okay, so you're not even activating it with ESS 60, right? You're just using the squeeze, and it's the really more like a blue, right? Like a blue lotion.
It looks okay. It looks purple to me. It's purple, and I've used the little face serum a few times. Again, if I'm just I should have done it more frequently just to like go, hey, I'm having this interview coming up. I should have done that. But I put the face oil on. I think I did that less frequently than using the purple cream because I thought that had the ESS60 in it also because it's purple.
Well, so I think you'll find and it came in like a nice box, right? Like a nice looking box because that,
Yes.
by the way, that box is brand new. I'm so proud of the team really kind of making that happen. So this is actually a two-parter. Let me talk about this process because it's kind of crazy how it all happened, right? We were actually getting reports of hair and nail improvements from just people taking the product orally, right? Taking the olive oil orally. And I kind of equate this to your nails and hair are for mostly aesthetic purposes, right? And if you're dealing with any challenge, and we kind of, Epstein bar or whatever the challenge is, your body's like, yeah, we don't need to look that good. We just need to live through tomorrow. Like we need to stay alive. And so it actually starts sacrificing hair and nail growth. And so when people were reporting hair and nail improvements, we're like, well, maybe that's where it's landing. Like it's helping the body to manage some internal process that it needs to manage, and now it can go, okay, we're going to live tomorrow, so let's make better skin and hair. Well, really hair and nails. And then one of my business partners, she would drink out of the bottle, like directly out of the bottle, and there'd be some, spillage on the side. She'd wipe it with her hands and put it on her face, and she's like, "Chris, this is working so well. I think we should make a face serum." And if you go back and listen to that episode 551, you'll understand I never wanted to be in the health supplement space. We actually tried for 4 years. My business partner and I got together every quarter for 4 years. And we're like, no, we don't want to be in that industry. We sell to research institutions around the world where there's exacting and high standards, and the supplement industry is not that industry, right? So I wasn't interested in being in the supplement space. She says we should make a face serum. I was like, yay, a face serum. That sounds amazing. That's exactly what we should. I dreamed of making a face serum. So we make it, and we're getting great testimonials. And you may have gotten, I don't know if you've got a full one or just a sample of the night serum. So that would have just been one ampule of the night serum. We start getting great testimonials about that product. And then my director of research came to me and said, hey, Chris, I found a peptide that has 30 years of showing peer-reviewed, published research, skin and hair improvements. You should look at it. So I look at it and I'm like, this is 30 years of skin and hair improvements. We should work to bring this product to market. And so it's a peptide we call it UTH29, which stands for Youth 29, which is kind of cool. It's originally the 29 was for copper, right? Because that's the peptide, copper peptide in there. But we found later from some of my wife's friends that 29 is apparently the year all women would like to stop like that's the ideal year, right? You have the right sophistication and none of the age, right? Like that's
That's funny.
So it's funny. Yeah, it's funny how things work. So we've got this peptide, which is water soluble, and then we have our ESS60 molecule, which is oil soluble. We could use an emulsifier and shove these two together, but I don't like how emulsifiers sound, and if you Google them, there are no health benefits. I mean, it's actually detrimental health aspects of an emulsifier, and so we kept it as a two-part. So in an ideal world, you're taking, and by the way, it probably is purple because women have better color distinction than men, so I just lump it into blue.
Oh, that's funny.
And you're calling it purple. It probably is purple. But the intention is that you do 2 squirts of this UTH29 peptide lotion and then 2 drops of the ESS60 activator in the palm of your hand per squirt. And now you mix it with your fingertips, and that's what I do every day now, and I apply that to kind of any part of the skin that tends to show aging, and this is how good the results are. So there's an organization, there's a Dr. Yurth. I don't know if you know her or have had the opportunity to interview her. She's out of the Boulder Institute of Longevity. She's amazing. I was on a call with her team, and that same team ended up coming to our booth at the A4M Longevity Fest in Las Vegas. And there's a little bit of hyperbole, but two of the people in her group were like, yeah, that potential to live longer, get that out of the way. Like being healthy and whatever, not have migraines, get that out of the way. I'm here for your Skin Reduo set because they love it so much. So
That's
I'm not.
funny.
Yeah, so you might find putting the combination,
I was
you
doing
get
it
even
totally
better.
wrong. I did at first do the oil and the cream together. I didn't realize I'd slather the oil on my face and then I'd slather the cream on my face and then I'd mix it on my face. See,
Yeah.
instead of in my hand, like I was just like maybe being a bit more violent than I should have. But I'm glad you told me how to take it now because I was still doing it. I was doing it wrong and I still got results. So I can't wait to try like the 2 pumps and the 2 drops and then rub it in my hands, then put it on my face. I can't wait to try that and see what happens to my skin. That's
Yep.
exciting.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Longevity experts like prefer it over longevity.
That's that is so interesting. So is this the peptide is this why you work with Dr. Brzezinski?
No. So Dr. Brzezinski is an interesting story, right? So I have a podcast. It's called Live Beyond the Norms. And so this is an interesting story. I went to practitioner, a couple interesting things here. So I go to my practitioner this year and she was like, hey, your LDL dropped from 2023 to 2024. Good. Keep that going on. This is 2025. The day I get my basic lipid test, I'm at the Biohacking Expo in Miami, and I just got my results in. Actually, I don't think I hadn't gotten them yet. I was watching a Dr. Christopher Davis speak, and he's a cardiologist and an amazing guy. And he was talking how the basic lipid profile is it's not kind of useful. It's not kind of useless. It's absolutely useless. You need to do at least an advanced lipid profile. And then he's talking about some more advanced testing, talking about calcium scores and talking about a clearly AI driven engine to understand what your soft plaque blockage is. So for podcast content and also because I had elevated LDL, I'm going to interview him and I'm going to get my own tests. And in order to get this clearly scan, I have to have a local practitioner. So I kind of describe it. I didn't want to meet Dr. Brzezinski, right? Because he's like a dude between me and the result that I want. Because I'm going to go back to Dr. Christopher Davis. And so I go to him, and it was, I already interviewed him. We went from me not wanting to meet him to actually interviewing him on my podcast in a very short time frame. I think it was like 5 minutes in. He's a super, he's a full, licensed and I think board certified medical practitioner. At a minimum, he went through medical school and he went through residency, and then he's also just a full blown biohacker. And so we just hit it off immediately. And so, yeah, I ended up interviewing him about some of the cancer protocols and cancer screening tools that are out there. So that's how I ended up meeting him.
So neat. Yeah, he's really, really interesting. His study around specific peptides in cancer.
Well, so this is interesting. This story gets even a little, I don't know, kind of more interesting, at least in the Houston area, because my business partner had been thinking about a Dr. Brzezinski who was cutting edge cancer treatments.
Oh, is it a different doctor that we're talking about?
It's his son.
What?
How cool is that?
That is so cool.
Right?
Yeah, because I hear Dr. Brzezinski, I think there's only one, but of course there's 2.
Yeah, and there's a Brzezinski building, right? So I'm coming up to visit Dr. Greg Brzezinski. That's the son, who again is this gatekeeper between me and a test result that I want. And there's Brzezinski on the building, and it's just funny that my business partner had seen him on TV here in Houston, because this is where he's based, obviously, and was like, hey, we should try and figure out who this guy is and connect with him because he's doing kind of cutting edge stuff. And then I end up working with his son, kind of resentfully.
That's funny. Yeah, so he figured out there's a peptide that people who, I mean, this is just a 30,000 foot view, people who don't have cancer naturally produce a lot of this peptide, and people who have cancer don't produce it. And they're like, is it that by stopping producing it, you develop cancer? Is that the cancer is suppressing it? Like, what's going on? So he'd make this peptide, put it into like an IV bag, and like flood someone's body with it, and getting interesting results around treating cancer and the longevity of peptide treatment. And he's cutting edge. He's been doing it for, I think, since like the 90s. Like, I remember seeing him on talk shows, like Oprah or something, right? I remember seeing him talking about, or like Donahue or whatever, like in the 90s daytime talk shows talking about peptide treatment and cancer. Super interesting. And then I'm working with these phototherapy patches, and one of them stimulates the body to produce the same peptide, and it has all kinds of really neat effects. So I'm wondering if your UTH29 copper peptide, is related in any way. That's why, because you said peptide and you said Brzezinski, and I got excited. So I wanted to know.
Well, and I even interviewed Dr. Greg Brzezinski about cancer, right? So like, I can see your mind's going to go directly there. But yeah, so I haven't mentioned met the Dr. Brzezinski that you're talking about. I've just met his son, who's, again, just a fantastic biohacker, and I will actually continue to work with him.
That's cool. That's really interesting. So you wrote a book, Live Longer and Better. It's so funny how this happened, this whole story. Like, you never thought you were going to you never thought you were going to write this book. You never thought you were going to be selling this supplement. You never thought you were going to be helping women look younger, right? This, like, you for years were running a very reputable lab that helped scientists win Nobel Prizes. Like, it's almost like God put a path out for you that you just did not expect, but you were going with, all the signs pointed towards this direction. Tell us about your book and about the journey of writing it.
Yeah. So the kind of the byline on the book is, your journey to living longer and better has never been more achievable than today. I'm super lucky in that my co-author is Dr. Jerome Corsi. He is a 2-time New York Times #1 best-selling author. I knew at some point that I needed to write a book. I knew at some point, well, forever probably, that I'm not a writer, right? Like that's not, I do okay, but I'm not a writer. And so I knew that I needed help. And it's kind of an interesting story, because Dr. Corsi was taking our product. He loved the product. He had seen me in a couple of interviews. He called, he got through the receptionist, we're having a conversation. And, we've all had these conversations like, this is an amazing conversation. I don't know where it's going, right? Like, I don't know if we'll be friends. I don't know that we'll do business, but I'm enjoying the conversation. And I looked up his credentials and saw that he was a 2-time New York Times #1 best-selling author. And in my kind of whatever selfish mind, I was like, oh, that's why we're talking. He's going to write my book. and then that came up, and frankly, he was just in the right transition period in his life where my book was an appropriate project for him. And so we ended up writing the book. Now, in my mind, he was going to interview me, he was going to watch some of my interviews, and then he was going to go off and write a book, and then he was going to come back and I was going to read it, and then we were going to publish it, right? So our first kind of book writing meeting goes, all right, Chris, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to write down your story, and then I'm going to edit it. And I was like, I guess I'm writing a book. Like, that's when I learned I was actually going to write a book. And and it was great. Basically, I took the story and wrote the story down, and I do okay at that. He takes it and turns it. We'll call it prose. I think that's a certainly fairer description than what I put together. And he did compliment me. Like, I am pretty self-deprecating, right? So I'm not. And I have a good sense of humor. I don't know if we touched on the fact that I used to do comedy improv at some point.
That is so funny. That's so funny. Like the pictures I've seen of you, right? You're in a lab coat. Like you're a scientist, right? You're a
Yes.
scientist. You're like, and I do stand-up comedy. But I'm a really good scientist and a really average author.
Yeah, average author and average comedy improv artist.
Nice. Well, you know, it's very healthy for the mind, right? You got to have hobbies.
Yes. Well, yeah, and be willing to tackle new things. It's kind of interesting. I have 15-year-old boy-girl twins, and almost every day is some sort of lecture about like you should be pushing outside of your comfort zone, because if you just sit in your comfort zone, like nothing's going to happen, right? And you're not going to have anything memorable happen to you.
Are they lecturing you?
Oh
Dad,
my
you
God.
got to come on, you're boring. You got to get out of the house. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
Are they the ones lecturing you, or you're lecturing them? Like, get off your phones. Let's go have a life.
Oh, well, yeah, get off your phones is certainly a big it's amazing how addictive these devices are, right?
Yeah.
And you and I are even subject to it. And we've just spent an hour doom scrolling on a good day,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you're like, how did that happen? And then they grew up with it. So their
Yep.
little tiny minds are who knows what's going to happen.
I know.
So
There was a guy. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. There was a guy who did this self study, right? He took away all screens, which I mean, it's not possible for our work, you and me, right? But he took away all screens, and he measured, like, he did a bunch of tests, like self-tests, like beforehand and after, but he did like 7 weeks with no screens kind of thing. And his memory recall went so high. He's like, it's like the beforehand. Now he's young. He's not like super old, like maybe he's in his 40s, but he said the recall he had before was as if he had dementia. And he stopped doing 100% screens, and his memory recall, you know how they say, like, we're going to read 15 words and then you're going to do a puzzle and then you're going to tell me back the 15 words. Like, he had his 100% of his memory recall back after eliminating all screens.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like seriously, like how much of this is dumbing us down? They've even showed like parts of the brain are smaller now because we used to have to memorize how to get places. Like we'd have to have a map in our head and be like, okay, I'm going to turn left here and I'm going to go right there, and like reading maps. But then you'd memorize friends' phone numbers. Like I had everyone's phone number in my head. I even had all my credit card numbers memorized in my head.
Oh my God.
Right? Like
Yeah.
this was back in my 20s. Like I could just rattle off all my, not that I had a ton of credit cards. So I could rattle off my debit card, and I knew how to drive everywhere. Right now with GPS, people who use GPS, there's parts of the brain that is smaller now because we are relying on something else to do it for us. And we're losing that part of that brain is just shrinking. It's shriveling up. And now we don't memorize. I have like 2 phone numbers memorized. I have 3 phone numbers memorized in my head. That's it. And sometimes I have trouble with the third one. Like it's crazy. It's like that part of the brain is shrinking. And they're showing their people. Have you seen the study about, I think MIT put out a study with heavy users of AI, like heavy people who rely heavily on AI. Their brains are shrinking because they're outsourcing their problem solving to AI. They're outsourcing almost all their thinking. And it is shrinking the brain to not use it. So
Yeah.
little like I know, little tangent there, but you said your kids, you're like telling your kids they got to do something fun and memorable, and went down that rabbit hole.
Well, just one thing to add to what you were saying is, New York cabbies actually have to, not New York, London cabbies have to memorize and understand and take a test. It's got some fancy name. And they've looked at that same space of the brain, and it's bigger in London cabbies. So, yeah, with my children, the lecturing is like, hey, so here's an interesting thing that I did accidentally. I wish I could say I was brilliant and figured this out beforehand. But I was like, hey, what was, I'm asking my daughter and my son, what was what was the best day you can remember? Like the best day ever. And by the way, my son struggles remembering what he did today, right? Like
Yeah.
even if it's a good day, like so we have this practice when we have dinner together. Hey, what was your favorite part of the day? What was your second favorite part of the day? Because they would cheat and say that dinner with us was the favorite part of the day, right?
Right now.
Something else, exactly. So you got to come up with something else. And he would just struggle, right? So he definitely has a hard time with recall of events. So I'm not really surprised that that I some prompting, right? Like, hey, when we conquered the Velocicoaster, at I don't know, it's not Epcot. At Universal, I think it's at Universal. And then the time that we did this crazy swing on the side of a cliff and we came off with our hands shaking because we were so terrified. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, then maybe those are in the running. And then I was like, and what would you do tomorrow to have the best day? And his answer is be on his computer.
Oof.
But I was like, you point out the fact that what you actually want to do today will never lead to the best day ever. Right? You can't get to a memorable best day if you don't change what you want to do tomorrow.
Well, it's dopamine seeking, right? Like, because being on the computer, playing video games with friends, whatever, that's fast dopamine. That's like eating ice cream is going to give you fast sugar, right? So, screen time is fast dopamine, easy dopamine, right? Whereas like hiking to the top of a mountain and then like scaling down the other side, that's hard. You got a lot of work before you get the dopamine. And that's why I had an expert on education and homeschooling on the show. I'm going to have him back on the show. Because he just published a book, but he said, his name's Daniel. He goes, the worst thing you can do for a younger child is give them a screen like a tablet before they learn to read, because reading, as you and I remember as kids, once you know how to read, you could find a book that was super exciting. You couldn't put it down. Like your mom would be like, okay, lights out now. And then you'd like get out the flashlight, put it over your head, or maybe it's a comic book, right? But like you'd be like, oh, this is so exciting. Like I have to see what happens in the next chapter, right? Like that was fun. But the level of dopamine you get is sort of like the level of sugar you're going to get from a kale salad, right? Like it's slow drip, right? The body has to work hard to get that carbohydrate, to get that carbohydrate broken down to sugar, right?
Yep.
And then if you give a kid a tablet or whatever, right, some kind of screen, the dopamine is easy dopamine. It's like giving a kid ice cream. It's huge dopamine spikes. And now when you give them a book, the brain goes, I don't want that. It's hard. It's hard dopamine. It's hard to get the dopamine out of that. I'm only getting like 10% of the dopamine from the book that I would be getting from the tablet. And so kids are having delayed reading or not. I mean, it's obviously not the preferred thing. Like you say, your son, what's the best day you could possibly have? And he's like, being on the computer. And that's the easy dopamine answer, right? That's the addiction brain answer, right?
Yeah.
And I'd say, little plug for my book. I wrote the book Addicted to Wellness, and it's all about using the brain, the addictive part of the brain, to like turn it on its head and be like, okay, now we're going to be craving kale. What can we do to start using that part of us that drives and motivates us to go, doom scroll for an hour or stare at screens, right? Because it's easy dopamine. And then how to start craving things. It's not as easy dopamine, but you start associating it with, so then you start actually getting dopamine, higher dopamine levels from healthier things. So there's a way you can use your brain to do that. That's my book, Addicted to Wellness. So little plug there. I love this rabbit hole. I forget how we got here in this conversation, but I love it. Why do you call it ESS60 and not C60?
Yeah. So the way we think about it is C60 is for industrial applications, right? And there is peer-reviewed published research that it proves if you improperly process it, it's harmful. ESS60 is C60 that's been processed for people and pets. The ESS stands for elemental safe spheres, right? So it's a spherical molecule. It's one element. They are safe, and there's 60 of those carbon atoms in there. A big part of why we ended up doing it is if you again go back and listen to episode 551, we talked about how when we finally decided to get into the market as a supplement company, that part of what drove us is we're a lab, we're the oldest and longest manufacturers and distributors of this molecule on the planet. And I had found an article that said 50% of the supplements on the market, and this is supplements in general, not specifically to this space, didn't have in them what they said they had in them. And as we're considering coming into the market, really as our customers are twisting our arm to get us into the market, we looked back and thought, that's going to happen in the C60 space. And it actually has, right? You've kind of reported that you tried another C60 product. It was a good olive oil. That's great. But you didn't really notice anything on it. We tested 22 of the products in the C60 space. And my description, other than one other company at the time, I don't know that this is true anymore, other than one other company, the concentrations in the product were woefully low.
Yes.
And so, and not only that, there are products in the C60 space that literally have zero C60 in them. And so people are going to get, they'll hear the podcast, they'll Google C60, maybe they find us, maybe they don't. They go to C60 and then they get a product that doesn't have C60 in it. And then they're like, I tried that C60 stuff, it didn't work. And the reality is you tried the wrong stuff, right? So by talking about ESS 60, we really do keep consumers safe in a couple ways. ESS 60, again, processed for people and pets. And then in terms of concentration, we're the oldest and longest manufacturer of the molecule on the planet. And so we have the lab, we have the HPLC, we have the equipment, like we have everything that you would need to be able to make an extremely high quality product.
You had mentioned that this is not evaluated by the FDA. And I think it's important to point out that the FDA does not approve or have any kind of regulatory, they don't regulate supplements, right? So it's not like you're specifically, you're not approved, but everyone else is. It's like, no, the FDA is food and drug, right? And and that's their wheelhouse, and it's not food, drug, and supplements. And it's the wild, wild west out there, but we don't want regulation. Yes, we need to be responsible consumers, but we don't want a government agency that is very much in bed with pharmaceutical industry to come in and regulate the supplement world, because the pharmaceutical world doesn't want homeopathy, doesn't want supplements, doesn't want you to have access to things that keep you healthy. And I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it is 100% true. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that if we gave the FDA that level of control, that we would lose really, really great products like this one. And that would be a big shame. So we don't it's not like you said, it's not evaluated by the FDA, but the FDA doesn't go and evaluate supplements and say this one's good, this one's bad. There have been cases where they'll remove certain supplements from the market because they were dangerous, like high dose, herbs or something, right? We have to have respect for herbal medicine because it is not 100%, like homeopathy is 100% safe. It's very, very safe. But herbal medicine isn't always safe. You have to make sure you're taking the right dose, the right plant. You just you have to you want to work with an expert, work with a doctor or a naturopath or an herbalist. But your supplement is carbon, right? It's something that we are made of, right? It's not like a weird foreign thing. It's like we're made of carbon, right? And it's the magic of it is my understanding it's the shape of the carbon is the cool thing. That's like why it's so cool. But it's like olive oil, again, proven to be healthy in the right type of olive oil, the way it's contained, right? Because olive oil exposed to heat and sunlight and oxygen becomes rancid, and then you're consuming free radicals. That's not great. And so you're using medicinal level, right? You talked about M551, how the extent you go to maintain the quality of the olive oil the entire time while it's being fully saturated with the ESS 60.
I think, there's a couple things to touch on there, right? So the FDA, I think they really have landed in the right space because I'll tell you this, as I was transitioning from being the chief scientist of a carbon nanomaterial manufacturing business to being the chief scientist of a supplement company, of a health supplement company, things change and I'm trying to figure out what that space looks like. and I found a statement on the FDA's website, and I took a screenshot. I was like, they're going to take this down soon. There's no way this is true. And it says that the FDA does not require you to prove that a supplement is safe before you bring it to market. And this sounds not like what you think is happening, right? And I think that's some of what you were trying to address. And when I started to really dig in and think about it, it's actually the right decision, because if you think there's just an infinite number of potential supplements. So let's say Ashley comes up with her version of a supplement, which is 10% vitamin D and then 90% vitamin E, and I switch it up and I change the concentrations. We have two different supplements, and the FDA doesn't have the budget to evaluate these supplements and figure out if they're safe. What the FDA does require is proper reporting, right? So we are required by the FDA, if we have any customers report a severe side effect, we have to report that to the FDA. I can share, we haven't had to report anything to the FDA because we haven't had anybody with severe side effects. We have had people come in and say, ask, we may have touched on this last time, hey, it's leaving this peppery flavor at the back of my throat. Is it rancid? No, that's a high quality extra virgin olive oil. And some people, if you're not used to consuming, a typical serving is about a teaspoon of our product, which is a teaspoon of olive oil with as much of that ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve. If you're not used to consuming oils, it'll loosen your stool for a couple of days. But other than that, we haven't really had to report. I will tell you, we've had a couple people come in and make some serious claims, and then we're like, wait a minute, you ordered the product a year ago, and I think you just want money, right? Like a year ago, you ordered the product and not enough to use for a year. And now you're coming back and saying, I don't know, whatever. My health has been horrible for all these years, for this entire. And no, that's not what happened. And they were just making some sort of money grab or something. I don't even know exactly what they were doing. But we do our due diligence. Like, hey, provide us with the medical records associated with this, because that's something that we would have to turn into the FDA if we were going to report it. Of course, those never materialize. So we've had, I think, 2 instances where somebody's been reporting something, and when we dig in, nothing is going on, right? Like there's no evidence. They're doing some sort of money grab. But that's so I think the FDA really does have the right perspective, right? Which is that you've got to let us know. And by the way, if we were to have a serious side effect, right, and we were reported to the FDA, they don't shut us down immediately, right? Like we all know that somebody's going to at some point take our product and take something else. And honestly, this something else causes a problem and they blame our product. We still have to report it to the FDA, right? As long as we get medical records, the FDA is under the awareness that just because somebody reports one bad thing, 2 bad things, whatever, a statistically insignificant number, you have to report, but they don't necessarily take action until it looks like it's some sort of chronic problem.
Right. And I'm glad that system's in place. I think that is fair, because there have been a handful of supplements in the past that ended up hurting people, and maybe the people misused them, took like some diet pills, right?
Yep.
And that not great. Like maybe those individual herbs taken at a small dose are okay, but they took them at too high a dose, whatever the supplement was. I'm glad that we have a reporting system that then would be, ethical, responsible, and then let the public know, and then remove things that could hurt us. So that's good. But the FDA doesn't go into each supplement company and look at their manufacturing process and like look at their, their labs and their it is each company, we hope, tries to produce a product that is clean and pure. But as we know, most aren't. Right. So like Lead Safe Mama, I don't love how she does certain things. I've talked about this before. She will take screenshots of conversations with practitioners where she's arguing with them and then publish it, and then kind of go after their character. And I don't love that. I think everything should be in the light. But she gets crowdfunding. People say, hey, can you check my kids' chewable vitamins? And she'll get crowdfunding for that, and then she goes and sends it to a third party, and they test the lead and the other heavy metals, and then she'll publish it. And if it's a clean, she'll publish it, and then everyone celebrates that brand. And if it's not clean, she publishes it and then reports it to the company. And the company either says, I'm going to stick my lawyers on you. And then she publishes that conversation. Or, and yeah, this is where it gets spicy. Like if you like health drama, like go follow Lid Safe Mama. She actually blocked me on Facebook because I very politely said, hey, you could have handled this better, because she really was nasty to a doctor who I've interviewed and become friends with, and is a upstanding gentleman in the health space, wonderful person. And he was saying, well, the lab test you used wasn't accurate, and I use these labs and I'll show you the results. Like, he was trying to have a conversation, and she, tried to say some nasty things, drag his name in the mud. And I just said, listen, you're going about this the wrong way, because you two could become advocates together, because I really do know this guy, and he would work with you if you just didn't like come at him attacking him. But you're doing this in a way that gets you followers because you're being drama. So she blocked me. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. So you don't want to have an open conversation, but I do still love what she's doing, because she's bringing awareness to just how many supplements out there are full of lead, cadmium, arsenic, like a ton of heavy metals. And some of the companies turn around, go, oh my gosh, we had no idea. We are so sorry. Please, help us. We want to clean this up. We're going to go back to our manufacturers or whatever. And then she helps them, and then they do retesting, because she'll randomly be retesting them, and then they're clean. And then so there's brands who've like gone and worked, and she is like this now self-taught expert in cleaning up supplements. But the amount, and also foods, she'll test foods, like packaged foods, but the amount that have unsafe levels of, and she goes, there is not a safe level of lead. Just so you were aware, there's not a safe level. Like, there's not like, oh, well, it's only this much lead. It's like, no, there's no safe level. You shouldn't have lead in your food or your kids' supplements. And the amount of heavy metals that are in processed food and supplements over the counter, most of them are over the counter, is really scary. So anyway, having said that, how do you ensure the purity and that your stuff doesn't have heavy metals? Like, what kind of testing do you do to ensure, and do you publish the findings? I know we did talk a little bit about this, but I want to go a bit deeper to squelch any concerns around the safety of your product.
Well, and there's a little concern, and interestingly, it comes from the olive oil, right? Because olive oil is a natural product, and different batches of a natural product will have different amounts of anything, right? So we actually, as batches come in, we test that, we send that off for heavy metal testing. So that's just one of our basic standard processes. When we looked at the products that were on the market in the C60 space, the thing that we found that was probably the most concerning, we actually didn't kind of go through the expense and look for heavy metals or whatever. We were just looking like, hey, the thing that you absolutely have easy control over is concentration, right? Because you should be able to test it. And I think what happens is people in that space don't own a lab, right? And so when you start thinking about a company that doesn't own the lab, it's a line item expense to get a test done. And so they're heavily incentivized to not test repeatedly, right? Like, they just assume, day 1 normally looks like this, day 10 normally looks like this. We own the lab, a lab that does testing for the concentration of the ESS60 molecule. So we're testing multiple times through the course of a batch. We're not just testing at the end. And I'll say one of the things, I'm pretty altruistic, right? I don't like to talk bad about the industry in general. I don't want to call out anybody, because I think what happens is I call them out, they try and call us out, and then the consumer is like, I don't trust that industry at all, so I'm just not even going to try anything. So I'm pretty altruistic. I think what the reasons that their concentrations were so low is because in the original study, this was out of the University of Paris, they used an Erlenmeyer flask. Now, that's that kind of triangular shaped flask. It's a smaller flask, 1 liter flask typically, or at least that's what's used in this case. And then a magnetic stirrer. So you're stirring the olive oil or the avocado oil or the MCT oil with the added ESS60 powder, and you're stirring that and it typically took 2 weeks to reach saturation. By the way, if you were to wake up today and say, I want to make a lot of money off of a supplement, you probably wouldn't choose this one for the reason that it takes, actually, we know it takes 3 weeks of mixing in order to reach peak concentration. But how do we know that? And why is that different than the 2 weeks? Well, when you go from a 1 liter Erlenmeyer flask to much bigger vessels, right? So we're dealing with 100-liter vessels, then at that point, the fluid dynamics are different. And so that powder sitting in that vessel sits differently, right? And we just found, because we're testing multiple times as we're going up to these bigger vessels, oh, well, this takes 3 weeks to reach full saturation. Whereas companies that don't have the in-house testing, and frankly, probably aren't doing proper testing at the end of the process, they're looking at it and going, well, it took 2 weeks in the Erlenmeyer flask. That's actually in the publication in the paper out of the University of Paris. By the way, super proud to share, our lab provided the material to that original study, the study that turned this molecule into a health supplement. And our lab is actually mentioned in that peer-reviewed published paper. So, but in that paper, they used 2 weeks to mix it, and then now they're like, oh, well, just because we're still mixing it, we're going to mix it for 2 weeks and we're going to throw it in a bottle and send it out. Not that they shouldn't do a better job, but I try to assume that they're not doing anything on purpose.
I encourage people to go back and listen to episode 551, because I don't want to repeat too much of it, but it was really cool of you telling the whole story of C60 and ESS 60 and your lab and the process of how to make it, and the fact that the lab rats live 90 years 90% longer.
That's an expensive study.
Can you imagine 90 years? They're still living to this day, and for the next 40 years.
They're actually AI programmers now.
That's so great. And also tumor free, right? Like these rats, which naturally produce tumors as part of their, I don't know, just the way that they've been bred for labs. They also were tumor free, and that's where you insert your, this is not we're not trying to cure cancer, or this is anecdotal or whatever FDA little blurb there that you did back in 551. But just interesting that like mice and rats, which normally produce lots of tumors, when you give them this substance, they don't produce them, and they also live super longer than they normally do. And in labs, we know typically, because I am not the scientist, you're the scientist, but scientists who use these types of rats and these type of mice know exactly how long they typically live. So it was just so incredibly cool. And that's why it all got started, right? Like that's the focus. That's why people went, wait a second, like, this made people's necks turn, especially I want to know, how did the biohackers figure this out? Like, how did are there people that are just like scanning the internet for like weird, obscure studies? Because this study was around like industrial, whether it was like safe to use in like industrial lubricants and stuff. Like it was like not in any way being considered for the health space. Have you ever figured out like how that jumped, like how this topic jumped into the health space? Like who figured that out?
I mean, it was a toxicity study. The scientist who ran the study assumed that the molecule would be toxic because there's kind of 20 of the benzene ring shapes on the exterior of the cage. And benzene is, although it's ubiquitous in our society, the foundational molecule of plastics and a lot of medications are the benzene ring. When it's on its own, it's known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. And there's 20 of those shapes on the exterior of this soccer ball shaped cage. They assumed it would be toxic. No, I joke, like it's this wacky, crazy group of people called biohackers, which, I can say affectionately now because I am a biohacker, who, called us up and said, hey, that stuff that, the rats lived 90% longer, how much should we be taking? And, if you go back and listen to the previous podcast, my response was, That stuff that we sell to research institutions around the world to put into inks, batteries, tires, and photocells, like you probably shouldn't take any of that. We added not for human consumption to our labeling. So it really is just this whack. And yes, people are scouring the literature and looking for, I think if some other result came out on some other molecule where the test subjects lived 90% longer in, mammals, lived 90% longer, then yeah, that, whoever's manufacturing that molecule would start to get phone calls from crazy, wacky biohackers who want to start it right away.
Now, when you say animals living 90% longer, I think how many people have a beloved dog or cat that they would love to live longer? Like genetically, dogs should live longer than 13, 14 years. Like I think dogs should be living at least 20. I've had a cat live to 20. I've had another cat live to 18. That's pretty cool. I had a friend who had a cat live to like 26, right? Like, but they're possible. It's possible you could have your cat live longer, your dog live longer. And so you created a supplement for animals, which is the same stuff you give humans, but then you add some kind of like liver flavor, fish flavor, so the animals will actually eat it and want it, right? Hey, it's a treat. Can you share results that you've received from pet owners? Can we talk about go into because the FDA is maybe okay with you talking about that because we're not talking about humans.
It's interesting. You still have to be careful, right?
Okay.
And we'll maybe do a little bit of FDA dancing. One of my favorite testimonials, we probably mentioned this last time, so I won't go into the whole testimonial, but one of our largest distributors here in Houston, Gwen, she originally bought the product for her dog, had no intention of ever taking the product, and she noticed such a profound difference in her dog, she has a Shih Tzu, that she then decided to start taking the product, right? And it's really important one of the pieces that I love about pet testimonials is the fact that there is no placebo effect with pets, right? Like if you're listening to this, you might and should frankly be thinking about placebo effect because it does in fact affect everything. It affects medications. It affects your response to foods you eat. It affects everything. So like it is a consideration. It is just not a consideration for pets. Right. So she notices this profound difference. We actually have a couple of pets that we talk about from time to time that are in cats that are in their 18 and 20. So one 18-year-old cat, one 20-year-old cat. One of the CEOs of one of my companies, his cat was ill. They don't know exactly what was wrong with it, taking it to all sorts of vets. And the vets were like, this is crazy. The vets were like, hey, we should do this test. And then like my CEO, his name's Matt, he was like, hey, so if the result is positive, what do we do? Oh, the cat's going to die. And if the result is negative, I don't know, it looks like your cat's going to die. It's like, well, why don't we not spend the money on the test? And he ended up, calling our office and we gave him a couple bottles. This was probably 5 years ago. That cat is still with us. And the vets had written the cat off. Mm-hmm. There's another one that I really like also from the source. So there's a Kyle Zagradowski. He is the CEO of OsteoStrong. I don't know if you know of OsteoStrong. It's a bone density. Their focus is to increase bone density with kind of isometric, high weight isometric holds. So because it's isometric, you can't hurt yourself, but it is high weight, so you load up your bones. Fascinating technology. So he's in the health and wellness space, and I had interviewed him and sent him a care package. His son had brought home these 2 pugs. One of them was the runt, and actually something was severely wrong with the pug. It was, it had tremors. It was dizzy all the time. It could barely eat. He took it to the vet. The vet was like, this pug is not going to make it. My product arrived on his doorstep, I think like day 3 that the pug was brought home. He starts giving him triple servings, and this testimonial is actually available on Google from Kyle. And he's like, the dog was 80% better within a week. And they had said that it was water on the brain. I don't have any kind of things to support that. Again, not making any claims. And the vet was like, this, I would chalk this up as almost miraculous because of the dramatic difference in such an extreme situation. And I loved what Kyle's, he ends that kind of testimonial with, Chris, I will never not take your product.
You reminded me of the story of your buddy who does like ultra marathons. And I did notice more endurance in the gym, as did my husband. And I was like, but I acted like, oh yeah, it's supposed to do that. Like you're supposed to recover faster and like, feel like you are invincible in the gym. Like that's why I didn't bring it up as one of my testimonies, because I was like, oh yeah, he said it was going to happen. So like, of course this is going to happen. But yeah, I definitely felt that. It was really neat, just the doing one thing and then feeling it in these different areas of life. It's pretty cool. And then in 551, we talked about like how it works in the cell. Have you had any more studies? I know it's only been like 2 months since we had you last on the show, but is there any more science around it that we haven't discussed yet in the last, this episode and the last episode that you could bring to light, or anything, a new perspective on understanding why it works, how it works?
Well, I mean, the short answer is not really. We're kicking off with the help of an organization to start collecting clinical trial data, so clinical level quality trial data for an HSCRP. And actually, our conversation today, I've written down migraine, so I will put together a migraine study because
Cool.
we have just gotten that so many times. It's not just your husband. It's not just me. It's not just my wife. So many times we get that feedback, and that's a powerful thing. Migraines just really, really suck, right? And you're talking 2.5 years of half a life. Oh, I want to talk about, because you mentioned quality of life, and I took a note there. So I will be adding migraine to our kind of current studies that we're working on, which are sleep related, HSCRP related, which is the inflammatory marker. And then also we're doing one on kind of wrinkles and skin quality. And so we're going to add a migraine study to that. So I'm excited about that. The quality of life one, so you mentioned like this is a dramatic impact for your husband. We have a testimonial related, like that sounds very similar on a different aspect, which was a lady who was having problems sleeping. And she gave us a testimonial video, and she almost cried twice in this video as she's kind of sharing this testimonial. She was like, I tried everything. I went to every expert I could. I couldn't get sleep. I wasn't sleeping. And finally, I'm sleeping. And the way she said it was, the way you shared your story today reminded me of her sharing this. She goes, my significant other is getting to know me again. Right? Because if you're not getting sleep, you're not the same person, right? If you're, struggling with these migraines, you're not the same person that you are when you're not struggling with, that sleep or that migraine. So it's, I don't know. I'm so lucky that I get to, in some way, be responsible for these amazing testimonials.
I love it. That is so cool. Did you say, before we hit record, did you say that you had just completed a longevity summit?
Yeah. So I did a longevity summit. This was part of my, do things that sound like the right thing to do that I have no idea how to do. And I'll share this. I'll share this. Going into the summit, if you had said, 4 months before I even started the summit, hey, Chris, here's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to interview 55 experts in the longevity space. And it needs to include Ben Greenfield, Dave Asprey, Dr. Stephen Gundry, and then a bunch of others that I hadn't even heard of at the time that are also amazing. Yeah, I would have said, I'm the kind of person who likes to shoot a trajectory of success. And so I'm going to say no to that project because I don't see how I get from where I am to where I'm going. And in fact, at the time, there was this organization called Health Means that helped me put that event
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, so Chris, here's what we're going to need. We're going to, well, their initial kind of presentation was, you can be a sponsor and a speaker. I was like, yeah, I'll do that for certain events that they're running. You can just sponsor. And I was like, I don't know about that. And then I asked, well, how do I host it? I've just always believed if you're that person in the front of the classroom or in front of the conference room, then that's where you have the most impact, right? And they're like, yeah, here's the price point and here's what it is. And I thought, okay, I need to get out of my comfort zone and do this. The first conversation was, you need to interview between 35 and 40 people in this, longevity space. And I literally thought in my head, wow, I'm pretty sure I could do 25. Hopefully they won't be that angry with me. Right? Because once you go down the path, all right, what are they going to sue? We're not going to do the summit because you only got 25. And I ended up interviewing 55 experts in longevity. Again, Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield, Stephen Gundry. Amazing how that all came together. But there is one really, I think, kind of cool conclusion out of it. Really two. So again, I do some things serendipitously, not knowing what the kind of profound value is going to be down the road. But I did ask each and every one of these 55 experts, what are 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets, let's call them shortcuts because everybody likes shortcuts, for longevity and a long health span that you would share. And so I asked them all this, and I aggregated the data. And the data came out like this, right? So of course, you have to kind of interpret and interpolate what they're kind of saying. The key ones were sleep, exercise, mindset, and socialization was much, much lower. So we'll just look at sleep, exercise, diet, and mindset. 33.3% mentioned sleep. Right? 52% mentioned exercise, 52% mentioned diet, and 46% mentioned mindset. And my mind immediately went to only 33% mentioned sleep. Like, I feel like maybe they got it wrong, because we know how important sleep is for your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. Mm-hmm. And these are the things you kind of need to sit on and ruminate on them. And then I realized they did get it wrong, but for a different reason. Mindset wasn't the most important thing. And I think mindset is the most important thing, because here's the reality. If you need to put your device down, or even charge it outside of your room, or go to sleep at 10 o'clock or whatever the exact time is for your chronotype, but you're not willing to do it, you don't have the mindset to do it, it's not going to happen. If you need to exercise differently or more or less even, and you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to do it. And of course, with diet, if you need to make changes and you don't have the right mindset and you need to do it, then that's the problem. So I think mindset is, in fact, the most important thing. And it's the thing that people, a lot of people do talk about it. I think we need to be talking about it more. Like, how do you ultimately change your mindset? So that was one aspect. The other that I think was kind of cool is I went in to the Longevity Summit thinking about what are the silver bullets, right? And I kind of pictured 2 silver bullets. One of the silver bullet was the pill that you would take so that you could live forever or a lot longer, right? It won't surprise you, I did not find this silver bullet. But the other one was, what is the silver bullet that's going to kill us, right? What is the silver bullet that is this big impediment to us living significantly longer and potentially living forever, right? And what I found was pretty fascinating. It was stem cells. Now, stem cells are the repair mechanism of our body. A lot of people realize that we're sloughing off skin cells all day, right? We know we're losing hair. A lot of people maybe don't realize that our muscles, every muscle cell in our body is replenished every 3 months. And each tissue in our bodies have replacement, except for brain, have this kind of replacement profile. And what it gets replaced with is actually stem cells, these pluripotent stem cells that can become any cells. They're floating around your body. You're like, oh, this muscle cell or this liver cell or this kidney cell needs to be replaced. Boom, it becomes that cell and replaces it. Now, why is this a silver bullet of kind of death? That sounds very ominous, but I think it's appropriate. The silver bullet of death is that the stem cells come from our red bone marrow, and our red bone marrow shrinks as we age. So at some point, for instance, the longest lived human was Jeanne Clement. She died at 122. Interestingly, she quit smoking after her vision was so bad that she couldn't light her cigarette.
Oh my gosh.
So she was not the model of health and still lived to 122. They had identified that all of her cells had come from one kind of stem cell collection, right? So she was down to like one, source of stem cells. So when you run out of stem cells, it's kind of like if you don't have any way to repair your car, it's, the writing is on the wall. That car is going to stop working, right? Like the time frame may be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but it's going to stop working. So that is what I think is the biggest silver bullet. Now, I think there are solutions already that aren't being implemented and could actually work, which is you pull these stem cells out of our body, grow them, which is illegal to do in the United States. You can probably grow them, but you can't put them back in. And then some sort of like dialysis situation where you're getting constant injections of stem cells so that those stem cells can run around and replenish the cells in your body that need to be replenished. Those were kind of the key conclusions from my longevity summit.
Really interesting. So I have something cool to share with you, and that is go listen to episode 517 of my podcast with David Schmidt. I've been using his technology personally, and then also over 250 of my clients for the last 3 years. It's either 3 or coming up on 4. I can't remember. I got to go back and look. But it's been long enough. Getting super great results. So he has a technology that stimulates your body to produce healthy new tissue. And one of the mechanisms is that it encourages the body to make its cells in that way. FDA doesn't like people talking about stem cells, believe it or not. In the last year or so, they now regulate the thing that your body does naturally, make stem cells. The FDA is now decided it is regulating that industry. So if you were to take a supplement that's known to stimulate stem cells, or like use a frequency technology that's known to stimulate your body's own stem cells, like you're not taking stem cells from someone else, the FDA has decided that it can regulate that industry. So I'm just dancing around, but David does talk about that he has studies proving, and he's published them. He has 80 studies proving, and these studies, some of them are specifically on stimulating your body's own stem cell production. And I have been successfully using this with my clients, getting really cool results. So that's something to look into. So episode 517. But there are ways to help your body's own stem cell production, right? So you don't have to like take it from someone else. And then a few years ago, I interviewed a doctor on, and this was like maybe 7 years ago, I interviewed a doctor on, episode, get this, 108. So that was definitely a few years ago. And what I liked about that episode 108, is he explained so well what a stem cell is. And he's a doctor, he's a surgeon. His living is collecting stem cells, injecting them into like your knee or your hip. Let's say you have, arthritis, injecting them into it. Back then it was like $10,000. Now it's like probably $60,000, right? And where are you getting those stem cells from? So he talked about the efficacy of where you're getting the stem cells from, because if before the age of about between 24 and 26, you could derive them from your own body, from like adipose tissue. They'd suck out some fat, isolate the stem cells, and then inject them into, like, let's say your knee, because you injured your knee. But after the age of between 24 and 26, you have to get it from someone else because you don't naturally have like an abundance just hanging out in your like adipose tissue for them to culture or concentrate or whatever. And so then that becomes the ethical issue. Are we getting it from unborn babies? Are we getting it from, the mother's placenta? Like where are we getting this from? So other people, basically. And but people who have these injected into, like, let's say arthritic knees, the knee heals like amazingly well. People who are in car accidents and like have severe brain injury and then they use stem cells have incredible recovery, like really interesting recovery, far beyond what the doctors would think would happen. So it's the cells the body uses to then rapidly repair tissue. And no matter what the tissue is, it seems to work. But I asked a question, and I remember this point all the way back in episode 100 and what did I say, 108? All the way back in episode 108, I said, that's interesting. If the person, so let's say you take someone who like drinks beer and eats McDonald's and they're undernourished, right? They're the stereotypical American diet, lack of key nutrients. We're missing the vitamins, missing the minerals. Like the body is not full of what it needs. If he went and got, the $40,000 stem cell treatment, right, where you're injecting new cells to him, would he repair? Would he heal? And the doctor said, no, he will have very poor outcomes because the stem cells need nutrition to become the healthy cells. So it's not, like you say, it's a silver bullet. And I agree, stem cells are absolutely understanding our own body, or to protect your body to produce stem cells as much and as long and often as you can for the rest of your life. Like, I think that's really important. We should stop doing the things that hurt our body's own stem cell production, right? So what hurts our bone marrow, right? Like we should stop doing that, right? So like Dr. Joel Wallach says, eating gluten grains significantly negatively impacts your bone marrow production. And he goes into why, because of how it affects vasculature. And he has a really interesting theory about that. And so it's like, okay, there's certain foods like nutrition, making sure you're full up on all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids. Like you're full of everything you should do. Don't do everything you shouldn't do, right? You should sleep. Protect your body's ability to produce these things, right? But if you were to go get stem cells from someone else and have it injected into you, in order to have the best outcomes, you first have to nutrify your body, and then funny enough, when you nutrify your body, how much actually heals anyway. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Have you heard of acorn?
You mean like eating acorns from a tree?
No. So
Okay.
Acorn is a genetics company, and what they do is they actually pluck hairs because your hair follicles have pluripotent stem cells in them.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we had this process done. I'm about to interview the CEO of the company. I've actually interviewed their marketing guy, who is unbelievably knowledgeable. Like, it's just impressive. His name is Dave. So they plucked hairs out, and now they've got stem cells. By the way, the next best way to get stem cells is by sticking a needle into your hip bone and extracting stem cells. So you've got pluck hair, or we've got hip bone extraction, and right now they can't do much with them, right, because of the restrictions here in the United States. But the sooner you can store your stem cells in terms of age, right, the better. So mine are banked. It's like $170 a year or something to bank them. It can be expensive to pull them out, but I'm sure they would do something special for you if you were. I'd be happy to introduce you to them.
I'm just interested in all of this, right? But if we can protect and stimulate our own production, even into our senior years, I think that sounds like it would be the cheapest way to do it. But interesting, right? Like if you're someone who is worried about arthritis, for example, and you want to have that stem cell treatment one day, then culturing your own would probably be the most ethical. Maybe not the most financially easy,
Doable. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
doable for everyone, but glad they're finding alternatives to make the lesser ethical ways of getting stem cells. So you talked about mindset, and I love the examples you brought up. One thing, or just said a different way, I see this a lot. People who will take on a diagnosis like I have diabetes, right, or I have cancer, God forbid, or I have this, right. It becomes something they have. It becomes themselves. It becomes their identity. They have a belief system that is like, this is true. This is unshakable. This is the truth, right? And that mindset blocks people. Kind of like, imagine you're holding a giant, I don't know, disease in front of you. Like you're holding a giant ostrich egg right in front of your face. And you're like, this is my disease, right? I met with a woman the other day who has, she's having her gallbladder out. And I was at Taekwondo with my son, and one of my best friends is like, can you please tell my friend what you told me about gallbladders? And I'm like, listen, I said to her, people are not, if they're like in the wrong mindset, they are not receptive to what I have to say. Like but I will share this because I think it's my duty to make sure people are aware. And so I said, but it might not go well, right? So I'm very polite. I tiptoe, but I say, hey, I overheard you talking about that you're getting your gallbladder removed, and I just want you to know, because I've dealt with this in the space for over 10 years and having hundreds of clients come to me who've had their gallbladders taken out, and it makes them sicker and sicker and sicker, 5-10 years down the road. Someone can come to me, never tell me they've had their gallbladder removed, start telling me their symptoms, and I'm like, and when did you have your gallbladder removed? And they're like, how did you know? And back in 2012. And I'm like, yeah, it's because this is what happens to people who've had their gallbladder removed. So it's just predictable. But surgeons don't, this should be a crime. So I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but surgeons don't tell their patients that when they remove the gallbladder, they should be on a bile supplement for the rest of their life. Surgeons say, oh, well, that appendage wasn't really necessary anyway, right? Like we hook up the drip of bile into your small intestine, and that's adequate enough, right? Like we didn't really need this gallbladder in the first place to help emulsify fat. So if you can't emulsify fat adequately because now you don't have enough bile to do it because you don't have a gallbladder, storing the bile up, then you're not emulsifying. If you're not emulsifying, you're not digesting. If you're not digesting, you're not absorbing. Now you become more and more deficient in key healthy fats. And it also just disrupts a lot of other stuff in the gut. But so I just let her know, hey, just so you know, like I wasn't even going up to her saying, don't get the surgery. I'm just like, just so you know. And there are ways you can, there's ways you can, in some cases, actually help the body get so healthy you maybe not require this. And she goes, well, I'm getting the surgery because I have fatty liver. And I'm like, just so you know, non-alcoholic fatty liver is reversible. And she got super angry at me, like just very indignant, like red in the face. And I was trying to be gentle, tiptoeing, like I could give you some information to look at, and she just was like, I've had this for so long. So like, this is the mindset, like bringing the mindset to you. So imagine you're holding your disease, and it becomes your identity, and you start protecting it. Like, no, this is my problem. The doctor told me this. The doctor said I have to have like a drug for the rest of my life, or I have to have the surgery. And they hold it up to their face, and if you hold it so close to your face, you cannot see. You're not even going to allow yourself to see anything on the contrary. And so if you have a belief, like, because my mother had insomnia, my grandmother had insomnia, I will have insomnia. Like, or everyone in my family has this, or every man in my family died of a heart attack, or because this happened means this is going to happen to me. If you have a belief that you will have a disease, or you do have a disease, and you won't even entertain any activity that could help you out of that situation. And the hardest thing to do is to see our own blind spots, right? Like, it's so easy to point out someone else, but the hardest is to see our own. But if you find yourself going, well, my doctor said, right? If that comes out of your mouth, then you are doing this, right? You are having the mindset. Or if you're like, well, everyone in my family, blah, right? If you say that thing, or, well, it's because I am 57, or it's because I am a woman, or it's because I am, like, if, or it's because of my age, race, sex, whatever, if you have any of those terms come out of your mouth, that's a clear sign that the next thing that you're about to say is your blind spot, is your mindset. The mindset you need, and this is the mindset, and when you shift into it, you see the world in an entirely different way. My body has a God-given ability to heal itself. My body can heal itself. I heal. My body is healing every minute of every day, and my body can heal. And I need to figure out what I am doing and what I'm eating, how I'm living, how I'm sleeping. Like you said, sleep, exercise, diet, what am I doing that is inhibiting my ability to heal myself, right? And what can I do to support and enhance my ability to heal itself? But your body wants to heal, and I've seen people heal from things that no one else thought they could heal from, let alone themselves, because they decided to take on this mindset. When you believe your body can heal itself, now you finally open up to possibility, and then you take actions towards doing it. But if you believe you can't, like that woman, she's not even, and then I Googled, just for fun, I just Googled like how to reverse, like this is Google, this is mainstream medicine Google, right? I just typed how to reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver and scroll, and it's like bullet point after bullet point, study after study proving, like I know I've helped my clients do it, but like it's not, I'm kind of fringe, right? Sometimes I'm like my holistic space is fringe compared to the drug cut and poison, modern, monopoly method of medicine. And the fact that we can heal the body and then someone is unwilling to even see it, right? So that's mindset. So your body can heal. And I love that you pointed out that is the number one thing, because if you put your mindset, and the reason why those guys didn't talk about it is because they live, breathe, and eat it. This mindset is so ubiquitous with every part of their being. It's like you wouldn't say honestly, you and I should say the key thing to your human survival is the fact that you're breathing the air you're breathing. Like if we took the air out of this room, you wouldn't be alive in 3 minutes, right? Yep. Like that, but we take it for granted. We take the fact that we have oxygen and nitrogen and this wonderful mix of air that we breathe. We take this for granted, right? But that's the number one key to our longevity, is the fact that we have air in this room every day. Their mindset is like the air you breathe. It's so part of them. So you want to surround yourself, and I love that you gathered this from the longevity summit, because you want to surround yourself with people who their mindset is like the air they breathe. Their mindset of health and healing is something they don't even think about, because it's them. It's part of them, right? And then when you look at them and you're like, from the outside perspective, you're like, no. Your mindset is the number one thing that is driving you to heal and be healthier. And I mean, I've seen 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds turn their life around to, instead of listen to their doctor, like their doctor's like, okay, well now you need a wheelchair. Now you need to go get wheeled off and go die in the corner somewhere, right? Turn to dust. And they defied their doctors and started doing CrossFit. You at any age, you can turn your life around. You can heal. This is another thing that really makes MDs angry. You can heal arthritis. You can heal bone-on-bone arthritis. Your body can heal at any age. And MDs are angry about that. I don't know why. They're like, no, you can't heal. You need a replacement. It's like, no, your body can heal. But now again, we have to bring in the nutrition, right? Bring in the right exercise, the right mindset, the right nutrition, but your body can heal. And that's the number one thing. So I know I went on you pushed a button in me, Chris. You pushed the button.
It was a good button. I like it.
That's my button. Because I think that's my number one goal in life. If I could help people transform their mindset, they're going to go find this information, right? But it's our job is to show them, is to help do that paradigm shift, show them it's possible, and then they're going to run with it. But yeah, mindset, love it. Love it. That's so cool. Is there any aha moments that you got from the Longevity Summit, beyond this really helpful breakdown of what they said? Was there anything really neat that was worth sharing?
No, I'll tell you this, right? And I'm sure you bump into this. Like one of the things that seems to be extremely consistent is get off of gluten, really get off of wheat and grains, probably get off of dairy, definitely get off of sugar. And alcohol probably didn't come up that much. I think that almost goes without saying, but that was so consistent in people with their own healing journeys or the healing journeys of others. That probably no matter where you sit today, it's probably a good idea to stop eating bread, at least certainly bread here in the United States. I think there's some debate about how much of the problems is caused by glyphosate specifically, but pesticides in general, which
And what they fortify. Did they talk about that? That they fortify it with these? They say, "Oh, we're putting B vitamins back into but it turns out to be like this synthetic form of folic acid that blocks your ability to uptake folate. So it's actually causing on an intracellular level, causing more nutrient deficiency." Did they talk about what they fortify bread with? And they also put like things like they don't have to declare what's in the bread if it's industry standard. So like you said, glyphosate, but also like bromine or bromide, right? Is it anti-caking agents? Those kind of things. Like we all blame the gluten, and I don't think gluten's like super healthy. But if people who are incredibly gluten sensitive go to Europe and they can eat the bread there, like what are we doing in America? Like what? And Europe versus North America. What are we doing to our flour that it can have that? I met a woman who literally she goes, I end up in a hospital when I eat bread here in America. She's from Europe. She goes, I go to Europe. I eat pastries all day long. Like I just go to Paris, just yum yum yum, eat them up. But if I come here, I end up in a hospital because there's something in the bread here that makes me incredibly sick. How interesting is that? So, and I have a friend who for years thought she was gluten sensitive. Turns out because of her MTHFR, she cannot handle the synthetic B vitamins that they fortify in most flours. So it's like, what is it? Is it the gluten? Is it the glyphosate? Is it the bromine? Is it the B vitamins, like the artificial synthetic bad stuff vitamins they call vitamins? Or is it a combination of all of it? But yeah, I love that. Going gluten-free or grain-free is so freeing. It's like the brain fog goes away. Everything gets better. The body just works better when you remove them. Just like, taking alcohol away, right? Like it's like, oh, wow, I don't feel crappy in the morning. Like, wow, this is amazing. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Did any of those guys try your ESS 60? Did any of them say that they liked it or did it or?
Yeah, well, certainly a number of them, right? Some of them, actually, one of them is one of my top three. So I got to keep his privacy, but one of the top three. I know that Dave Asprey has talked about the molecule on occasion. I'm actually going to be on his podcast talking about our product.
Nice.
The beginning of next year. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Ben Greenfield has also talked about it. So kind of working to coordinate to be on that podcast. There's, I think, cutting edge biohackers who are constantly absorbing information are fairly aware. But I'll share that, when I go to a biohacking conference and I'm in a target rich environment, only about 30% of people have ever even heard of it.
Really?
And so,
fascinating. Well, there's more work to be done then.
Yep.
I want you to get hooked up with Tony Robbins. He's super mega biohacker, right?
Yep.
I think it'd be really neat. You and Tony. Oh man, I want to see that interview. So I'm putting that out in my future. It's already there. I'm looking forward to it. All right. That sounds cool. Man, you're rubbing shoulders with the bigwigs. Dude, this is cool. Here I am talking to you. Look, you're like, you've been rubbing shoulders with like the elite celebrities of the holistic world, and that's fun. I like it. Awesome.
I am about to interview Dr. Pompa. I don't know if he's on your radar.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And he's absolutely interested in our product and potentially doing a project together with it. So yeah, exciting things going on.
Well, I want to have you back after you've published these studies for sure. Like You're talking about doing these studies, and you're saying, you're going to do migraine,
HS.
and
Yep.
I definitely want to unpack that. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results, and then we need to uptick that number. Like, it should be 90% of people in the longevity space should have heard or used your product. I mean, not 30. So we've
Yep.
got more work to do, Chris. We got to get this out there. And
Well,
listeners can go to myvitalc.com/LTH, and you give us a great discount. Thank you. And then you'd said in episode 551, the best price, scroll all the way down till you find where it says auto ship, sign up for the auto ship, get the olive oil one, sign up for the auto ship, and then you have an amazing 5-star customer service. They can cancel. They're not like, they don't have to stay on the auto ship if they want to, but it gives them the biggest discount. And between my coupon code that you gave all of us, and then getting on auto ship, those two combined give you the best discount. And then if you want to stay on it, you still get the best price. And if you don't, you get to cancel it, and you got the best price. And then you stand behind your product, which is another thing I am very happy about. You stand 100% behind your product. So I encourage listeners to go check it out. They can also go to the show notes of today's podcast, learntrail.com, or wherever you listen from. You can just click on details of this episode, and you'll see the link to myvitalc.com/LTH, as in Learn True Health. Chris, this is exciting. The fact that you gave my husband a tremendous chunk of the quality of his life back. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next few months. Does this continue to transform it? Does his problem go away completely? Does this, what's going to happen? But the fact is, out of everything we've done, it's been the number one most effective thing. So I'm eternally grateful. So thank you for what you do. And thank you for taking on the challenge when everyone said, please make a supplement out of this. You finally did, in the most ethical and safe way possible. So thank you for everything you do. Is there anything you would like to say to wrap up today's interview?
Well, just thank you so much for having me. Thank you for helping me spread the word about this. Let's not even talk about the research behind it, the story, which is in that book, right? Live Longer and Better. And I have a charity piece that I want to share about the book. So you can find the book Live Longer and Better on Amazon. It's $19.95. It's also available on our website with this charity piece. So do go to that link, the myvitalc.com/LTH, grab that coupon code, go to the menu structure and find the book. The book is available for $19.95 on our website. For $10 extra, I will autograph that book for you, and 100% of that $10 fee goes to Operation Underground Railroad. You may remember that movie, The Sound of Freedom, an amazing movie about a horrible topic, which is child sex trafficking, and which should be off of our planet yesterday. And so 100% of that signature fee goes directly to Operation Underground Railroad.
That is so cool. Well, thank you, and just for bringing awareness to that. I actually know a local teenager that was saved from that industry, and it hits home. You think about that. You think it's somewhere far away. You think that that's something that happens in other countries to other people, not in your backyard, and it happens everywhere. And it's happening to I mean, even if it happened to one person, it's too many, right? But it's happening to too many children and teenagers, and it's not all right. And I love that you're bringing awareness to that and helping raise funds for that. So thank you for that. It was so awesome having you back on the show. Can't wait to have you back. This has been great.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. 2 hours goes by way too fast with you. So thank you again so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Chris. Since I recorded this, I've had even greater experiences with the ESS 60, and you can go to myvitalc.com/LTH. That's MYVITALC, as in the letter C, .com/LTH, as in Learn True Health. And there, Chris gives the listeners, gives you a awesome discount. And We talked about in our first interview in 551, Chris gave us a little hint as to how we can get the best discount. And that is what you do is you scroll, first of all, get the coupon code that's listed on the top of the page, myvitalc.com/LTH. And then you scroll all the way down to where you find the auto ship. Sign up for the auto ship, use the coupon code and sign up for the auto ship at the same time. And then you can cancel the auto ship anytime you want. But if you get on auto ship for your first order, it gives you the deepest discount. So that's what I want for you. Now, he also talks about how it's money back guarantee. So if you take a whole bottle and for whatever reason you're like, I want my money back, you can go to him. He's really awesome about that. Also, he talks about how if you've bought C60 from someone else, you can reach out to him. He has in the past taken bottles from other people and then said, here, let me just take that off your hands, take a free bottle of mine and try it in comparison, because his stuff is the real deal. And there's so many fake ones out there. And my husband, I personally experienced that. What's really neat is just by taking this alone, it turns off the chronic pain episodes, these migraine-like episodes that my husband experiences. And even yesterday, he took some during an episode, immediately turned it off. And I mean, by immediately, I meant within minutes. It just melted away, whereas normally it lasts for hours and hours. And he's had this happen so many times over and over again that it is, we see the only thing that has been able to just kick this pain to the curb. But not only that, you experience more energy, vitality, better sleep, better recovery. And, when you go and push yourself, how neat is that this helps on so many levels, that it is a powerful antioxidant. So there's so much to dive into, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface. But make sure you go back and listen to episode 551 if you haven't. It really complements this episode well. I'm glad you listened. Go and check it out, myvitalc.com/LTH. And please reach out to me. Let me know how this went for you. Let me know after taking some. Reach out to me, and you can email me, ashley@learntourhealth.com, or you can join our Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group. I would absolutely love to hear how this worked for you. Be sure to get on my newsletter. Go to learntruehealth.com and jump on the newsletter. It's right there on the homepage. I'd love for you to jump in. I think it's at the bottom. Sometimes at the top, sometimes at the bottom. Just look at the whole front page. You'll find it there. It's right there. And you want to be there because I've got something really exciting coming up, and I'm going to be announcing it to my listeners who are on the newsletter first. So if you want that information first, get on the newsletter. And you also will receive 1/3 of my book for free, and you're going to receive a whole series of emails leading you to the foundations of health that I have uncovered through working with people for over 20 years, as well as over 500 interviews with holistic health experts. I boil down thousands of hours of amazing information into concise emails for you to go down these wonderful rabbit holes. And each email is going to help transform your life, which you get for free. So jump on the newsletter. It's a brand new newsletter. So if you think you've joined my newsletter in the past, it's a new newsletter. You're going to have to jump on it by going to learntruehealth.com. Put your email in there, and good things will happen. Awesome. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Please reach out if you ever have questions. I'm here to help. I also work with people and I coach people. So if you're struggling on a mental, emotional level or a physical level, and you're stuck and you want some direction, I have some great resources. I'd love to help you. You can even sign up for a free talk with me. Go to the top of my webpage, learntruehealth.com, and select Work with Ashley James, and you can just sign up to talk to me for free. And I can, see if we're good for each other, if you want to hire me, or if I could just point you in some direction. You don't even have to hire me. Just talk to me for a few minutes. And sometimes I just help people get unstuck. It's a gift, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. So if you ever feel like you're stuck, just reach out. I'd love to help.